Good morning, Nolan. It is wonderful to see you again.
It's great to be here.
Thank you so much for your time. This is our leadership series, and we're looking forward to getting your perspectives and your experience on a lot of things that you've done. If we could start, Nolan, by just sharing who you are, what you've done, just a brief background, that would be really great.
I probably started out as a TV repairman when I was in high school, and then I morphed to running the games department at the amusement park while I was in college, and that led to my engineering degree and the creation of the first commercial video game, Atari. And then I did Chuckie Cheese, and then I did an incubator, and I've been a serial entrepreneur basically most of my life. And right now I'm working on Brainrush, and I've written a book called Finding the Next Steve Jobs, which is all about how to hire and create an environment for creativity in your business.
Yeah, that's spectacular, and I want to touch on that a little bit after. It's funny, my dad years ago was basically a TV repairman years and years and years ago with the big, I don't know if you remember, the big boxes, big suitcases almost they used to carry with the television bulbs in them.
The tubes, yeah.
The tubes, exactly. And he had a radio show called Doc David talking about television repair.
Uh-huh.
It was hilarious. But there's different times, that's for sure. And no, that's quite a varied background, and we're going to get into a lot of that. But I'd like maybe to begin by telling us what your perspective is of leadership.
I think leadership is about having a direction and sharing that image clearly with the people that you're working with so that you can have shared objectives.
Awesome. Well, you have a diverse background, as you've mentioned. Literally, some corporate consulting, startups, creative. What's your opinion of what as we call the right fit leadership is needed for an entrepreneurial type of venture, and how maybe that's similar and distinct from a growth venture and then a corporate opportunity?
Well, there's all kinds of different kinds of problems, and in general, I believe that the early phase of a startup, that you need to only have people who are self-motivated, who are, adults, and you basically have shared passion and you leave people alone. I think more problems come from micromanagement than from self-running, as I like to say. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I think that almost everyone who is pretty smart, once you talk through problems, have the same goals, and how you get there is pretty much, doesn't matter. Just a matter of getting it. So focus on outcomes.
I find it interesting, certainly in the executive search business, and we work with a lot of startups and corporate. Very often, the business owner knows the business great, but one of the biggest leadership qualities he has is asking for help, basically.
Yeah. Well, I find that the people who want to be the smartest person in the room generally fail, and the people who want to be the dumbest person in the room, by hiring as many capable people, they have a much higher probability of success.
It's interesting. Just my thing. I compare a lot to sports. Our website's full of sports, and it's business to sports. And there's these cliches. The champion makes all the players around him better, basically.
Exactly.
And the secure coach, to your point, is very secure enough to hire people that can absolutely replace him.
Yes.
So I guess that's similar, certainly, to what you're talking about. Board members. And again, have the successes with Atari, with Chuckie Cheese, which, by the way, I used to bring my kids to when they were very young, and I would recommend a Tylenol kiosk
Yes.
somewhere. But
If not morphine.
if not more, exactly. But we had parties there. Board members are also very valued leaders, and we have a board practice as well in our firm, and we've certainly seen a much bigger diversity within boards than before. And I don't mean just black, white, women, but I mean age-wise, expertise-wise, et cetera, et cetera. They can be so valued leaders. In your experience, how have you seen working from the management side with board members and being on boards, and what the right fit is there?
Well, I'd like to tell the story about Don Valentine, who was on my board at Atari. And I was very young and dumb. And Don was the best board member I think I've ever had, because every board he was kind of a Socratic kind of guy, and he'd ask me questions. And every board meeting he would ask me a question that I should know, and I didn't. And it used to really irritate about my own business. And it used to really bother me because, I said, yeah, I should be tracking that. I should understand that. And so because of that, we set up this little I set up the dynamic. And I would actually study for the board meeting thinking he's not going to be able to trip me up this time. I'm going to know everything, because I started getting this feeling for what he wanted and that, but I never could. He could always come up with a question that was very remarkable.
Well, that is super smart on his part, because he's prepping you, he's advising you all at the same time. I think that's fantastic, and we found cases where sometimes board members come in and they, to your point about wanting to be the smartest guy in the room, end up thinking they could actually be a better CEO than the current CEO.
Well, I think it's a real problem because board members may have the background of leadership, but they don't know the details of the business. And very often businesses change. Mm-hmm. What made sense 10 years ago doesn't make sense today. I was on a board in which the board member didn't use email. And I got thinking to myself, that how can that be a mind that is relevant for today? And maybe I was just being a little bit hard, but it was I thought it was totally inappropriate that a person had chosen to not move his skills along.
I hope that wasn't a tech company.
It actually was.
Double whammy.
Double whammy.
Well, speaking of tech, you've certainly been a contributor in technology. It goes without saying, and you're working on new ways, which I'm very interested in, on improving our education through technology. Brainrush, for one, but others as well. Can you give us a sense of how that evolved? Did it just naturally evolve, your technology ability and interest into education, and how is that evolving? What are the challenges and opportunities you're finding?
Well, it was actually triggered from a TED Talk in which a guy was talking about happiness, and it turned out that that this flow state, which is sort of the key to happiness, is very, very good for learning something. I mean, it's like your brain is ultimately engaged in learning. And so that became an interesting area where I felt that I like to have a certain level of confidence that my skill set is appropriate. And all of a sudden, it dawned on me that my skill set with video games could be appropriate for new learning methodologies using computers. And started the research and found out, yes, not only are the game skills appropriate, but they really fit the way the brain works. And, our beta software has literally teaches kids 10 times faster, maybe 20, better retention, 3 times the retention over time, all kinds of really beneficial things. And so I'm very happy with our results.
Yeah, that's fantastic, considering it goes without saying, education needs help, if you will, to get us to a new level. So I congratulate you on what you're doing with that. And my cousin was a teacher. I've had other teachers in the family and whatnot. And it's fascinating to me when you even see the technology of teachers from other countries teaching people or kids in other countries, and that's become a simple thing. So I think
This year Korea will have 0 textbooks. It'll be 100% online.
that's amazing. That's amazing. And I also remember you chatting with me about the combination of the energy and athleticism and activity while you're studying. Is that correct?
Absolutely. As I like to say, sitting is the new smoking. But more than that, if you slightly elevate the heart rate, your learning outcomes are tremendously improved. I recommend a book called Spark by a guy on our advisory board called John Ratty, who is a Harvard neuroscientist, and he's proven it. Get moving, learn better.
But it's almost, I always try to oversimplify things, but that's almost obvious that it would be better. You feel better.
Well, not just that. Have you ever, why do people pace? They're actually self-medicating when they're trying to solve a problem.
That's interesting. Yeah, I wonder why we do pace, or we look up, or we whatever things we do. It's I love that. So Spark by John Ratty, cool. I will check that out. You've developed relationships over the years. You've been involved in the community, contributing in the community, especially for up and coming leaders, young people. Can you tell us, how does being involved like that impact their own personal and career growth, in your opinion?
Well, I think that kids today are too impatient, and what I try to do is convince them that they need their first business to be right-sized. And in fact, my book that I'm working on right now is called Micro Entrepreneurship. And too many kids today think of entrepreneurship as Facebook and Microsoft and Apple.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't think about the corner drugstore or the shoe shine stand. And I believe that is a problem, that you don't get to be a major league pitcher without playing a lot of sandlot ball. And I think that kids need to start their businesses at 8, 9, 10, and be an entrepreneur and develop skills. There's some entrepreneurial businesses that take small amounts of skills, others take larger amounts. And I think that if you work your way up, by the time you're 22 to 25, you're ready for a potential big league win. And if you just got out of college and you've never held a job, the probability of you having the successful skills is probably 0.
Probably. Another friend of mine, you probably know Walter O'Brien.
Oh yeah.
He said, we've talked a lot too. He said that, the same thing. If you haven't had a business fail by the time you're 18, it's probably, he didn't say late, it's probably too late, but you should have a business and even potentially fail before you're 18.
I agree 100%, because it's, you're resilient at a young age, but yet you learn a lot through mistakes. That it's really important.
Yeah, it's I don't know if this is funny, but I started out with Deloitte, and my first day on the job as a so would say it grunt, I got fortunate enough to I was in a steel company, and long story short, the CFO had me in his office, and I was in audit, which I did not want to be in, but I thought this is great. The CFO is talking to me about his business, and I'm learning and this and that. Here's where the de-learning came in. The partner came in. He was ticked off I was learning about the business and wanted me to go pull invoices instead. So,
Right.
so I learned not what he wanted me to learn, but I learned what I needed to do, but not what he thought I should be doing.
It's always the case.
That's interesting. Tell us a little bit. I find it fascinating, the book you're reading about finding the new Steve Jobs and creating an environment of leadership through creativity, if you will. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, the main premise of the book is that you probably already have the next Steve Jobs working for you. You just don't know it yet. And that his work product or her work product has been ending up on the cutting room floor by people saying no. And that for a company to earn their stripes for being innovative, they have to try stuff. They have to say yes to a bunch of random things. They have to hire people who are often a little bit different. Too many companies try to hire people and they say, gee, I want everybody to be harmonious. At the end of the workday, we want to sing Kumbaya. And what you end up with is a very homogeneous company without a lot of outliers and an awful lot of diversity in thinking. And I believe that a certain amount of weirdness, a certain amount of friction, a spiky company, as I call it, is generally a little more creative. You don't, and people that don't get along, you don't need to mash them together in the cubicle. But most companies would not hire Steve Jobs,
right?
Because he was very prickly.
Yeah, well, and again, sports teams, you live together, play together for a long time. Generally, the ones that are champions, they don't all get along either, but they respect each other and they work together. So I think what you're talking about is right on the money.
Yeah.
There's right fit, but there's not like perfect fit. The right fit is
Right.
that you challenge each other and the coach challenges the player, et cetera, et cetera.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you, a couple more quick questions. Do you have a leader, past or present, that you've admired? The infamous would love to have dinner with?
Well, he's passed away, but I felt that that Bob Noyce from Intel, I've always considered him to be one of my business mentors because he was kind of at the pinnacle, the peak of his career when I was sort of starting out, and he was very generous with me with his time. Of course, like I say, Don Valentine, excellent mentor. Today, I would like to spend some time with Jeff Bezos. I think he is a very interesting fellow. He's taking interesting risks, and the things he's done with Amazon, I think, have been extraordinary.
There's a man who's committed to putting money back in the company and not just spending it out. Brilliant.
But he basically takes risks. Yeah. He's going in very congruent but different places for his business.
Have you had your drone shipment yet?
No.
These are a little more personal, not too personal questions. Do you have a favorite activity or sport you like to do?
Let's see. It's really interesting. I go through phases. I was a big sailboat racer for a period of time, and I loved that. And I still like to go out once in a while, but I sold my boat, and that kind of changes things. I like to ski. I like to snowboard. I rollerblade on occasion, and I really like to hang out with my family. My family, we just had everybody over for dinner last night. We get a house full of our kids almost every Sunday night, and that's really great because my wife's an excellent cook, and we maybe drink a little bit too much and always play games and have fun, and we just have a ball.
Well, that's a little bit of a lost art, but not enough people do that as much anymore, which I think is lost value.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite movie or TV show?
Do you know, I don't watch TV.
Good move.
Uh, I would say, well, I mean, I watch it on occasion. I watch The Big Bang Theory, which is kind of fun for
Right.
me. Uh, Movies, geez, I've got so many good ones, but I think Princess Bride has to be my all-time favorite.
Awesome. Good choice. How about a favorite type of music?
I am stuck firmly in the 70s and 80s. I love Pink Floyd. I
Nice.
love
Oh,
ELO, Queen. You
I'm
know,
with you. I'm with you. I love yellow. And you have a favorite type of food, or is it all the above?
all the above. I like to eat the indigenous food of any country that I'm in,
Hmm.
and that goes for street food. It goes to fine restaurant food. I went to a fine dining Mexican restaurant, and we had egg ant eggs that were really good, which I thought was a little bit of a stretch for me.
Yes, I've eaten in China and places myself, and I am adventurous, and it's definitely always an adventure.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, listen, thank you so much for your time and contributing. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.
My pleasure, and keep up the good work. You know, the country needs better board members and more capable
We're
executives.
trying. We're trying.
Okay, be good.